Reasons. Reasons are an important part of your speech. They may only take up something like 2 sentences of your overall speech, but they set you up for your examples, which are definitely the most important part of determining your score. They're also something that the grader uses to help understand your examples. We want to make sure that they're strong. So if you're watching this video, that means I think we need to improve our ability in delivering strong reasons. So how do we do that? A couple of issues come up. The first thing is we want to make sure that our reasons are simple and short. I used to emphasize a lot that you want your reasons to be about just one word. That way it's really clear and really simple to explain. However, I noticed that sometimes students are forcing the one word. So instead of giving a reason a sentence, which it deserves, they drop it down to one word. So you know the idea that you want to explain. If it's something simple, use one word. The first reason is money. You know, usually one word works, but sometimes you need a sentence. However, I don't want you to use more than one sentence. If you use more than one sentence, what's going to happen is you're going to cut into the time of your example. You're going to start to maybe run into repeating yourself, and it's going to create a little bit of an issue. So make sure you keep it to one sentence maximum. Just think about it this way. The grader is listening to your speech along with 20 others. So the grader is not going to spend a lot of time and energy on each individual speech trying to make sure, do I know and understand this student's fluency? Unfortunately, that's why there's so much trouble with this test and getting the speaking score that you want. But if you deliver an exact and strong speech, you won't leave the grader with any other option but giving you the highest score possible. This is one of the things that matters. A short, simple reason gives that grader, he or she, no work. It's clear, it's easy for me to understand, high score. Same thing with you. It gives you an easy way, an easy introduction into your example. So, short, simple reasons. The next thing is that sometimes we have trouble coming up with 2 reasons. So one reason is okay. It's not a problem. Remember, there's 100 ways to get your perfect score. There's 100 ways to get a high score. You don't have to do anything I say, but everything I teach you is tested. It works, and from my experience, my years of experience with different students at all levels, it's the fastest and easiest and most efficient way to improve. So that's why I'm teaching it to you. 2 reasons is better, but when you only have one, it's fine. What you want to do is come up with 2 examples for that one reason. Sometimes people want to come up with one big story. If you feel comfortable doing that, I think that's good, but I don't recommend it because gives you a big opportunity to repeat. So my idea, what I want you to do is to give a positive and a negative example. What exactly does that mean? Well, let me go ahead and explain. The general idea is that you give me an idea that shows, an example that shows the answer occurred, so the reason occurred too. That's positive. Negative is, I didn't have the idea of the answer, so the reason didn't happen. So let me give you an example to clarify it. So let's say, for example, I'm talking about a friend. So in my view, the most important characteristic in a friend is humor, right? What's my reason? Well, my reason is it makes the situation, it makes time with your friend and time overall enjoyable, right? So in this situation, I wouldn't say the first reason is enjoyable. I would say the first reason is it makes time enjoyable, right? Something like that. It's more clear and complete. So I would say, for example, positive. So I had a friend who was humorous, I give the detailed story about that, and then I explained how they made the situation enjoyable. It's the positive example. Then I transition with, on the other hand, and then tell me about a friend who's not so humorous, who's not humorous at all, or someone you know who has a friend who's not humorous, who's not funny. So what you want to do is say that we didn't have the answer, so we didn't have the reason. So on the other hand, I remember, going out with another friend who's not very funny, not very humorous, and I had a terrible time. Of course, fill it up with important details to make it strong and complete, and that's the idea. Sometimes, for some questions, it's challenging to come up with a positive and a negative. So for example, if you get asked a question like, what's your favorite picture and why? You can't really develop a positive and a negative for that. You can develop 2 positives. Just give 2 examples of the same reason. But I really think that that's something you want to avoid because it's so easy to repeat yourself. And repeating yourself, unfortunately, is the fastest way to drop your score down because it doesn't show that you can communicate or explain something in detail. So think about it this way. Let me give you another example. So say my favorite picture was one where I took a picture of a tree when I was in San Diego. Right? So I'll say that my main reason is that it brings positive feelings to me. So I say, for example, I took the picture in San Diego. We'll say something like, I'm from Russia, I'm from a city where there's snow on the floor, most of the time of the year. So seeing the picture reminds me of the beautiful environment, just makes me feel good. Okay, now what about the second example? It's challenging because you can't repeat yourself. So you have to draw on something different. So what would I say? I say, also the colors in the picture make me feel good. And then you say something like, remember your transition would be also, or furthermore, or in addition. The colors in the picture also make me feel good. I took the picture with a beautiful new camera that I bought a few weeks before I went to San Diego. So it was able to absorb all the pictures, all the colors that were there. The green grass, the blackness of the sidewalk, everything. So whenever I look at it, that brightness makes me feel good energy inside. So I hope you realize that that's not so easy to do. Coming up with a positive and negative example is all right, but two positives is challenging because you can really repeat yourself. That's why I don't teach one reason, I teach two reasons, because it's the simplest overall, even though it's challenging. So here's one thing to remember when you do this. If you can only come up with one reason while you're preparing your notes, you want to make sure to be prepared with a different set of phrases. So here are the phrases, listen carefully. You would say, in my view, that picture that I took in San Diego is the best picture I've ever taken for one main reason. It is. You don't have to say first because there's only one. And when you transition to the second, if it's negative, you'll say on the other hand. If it's too positive, you'll say in addition. Now, one of the things that happens with students who do this is they always have trouble with the phrases because they're so used to, in my view, for two reasons, first, second, that's why. So what I want you to do if you're watching this video is when we have an issue with reasons, we got to make sure we have this in our belt, which means we have it ready to use in case we need it. So I want you, whenever you practice, to practice two questions normally. So what that means is I'm practicing question number one, right? So I practice two different questions. For those questions, make sure you come up with two reasons. The third time, however, try it this way. Even if you can come up with two reasons, try it with one. Because you need to be comfortable with both, and you need to get your comfort from your practice. So 2 times with 2 reasons, 1 time with 1 reason. 2 times with 2 reasons, 1 time with 1 reason. Over time, as the days go by and the weeks go by, you'll be able to master this and be comfortable with it. However, as I explained, in my opinion, and for most students, this can be challenging, especially for certain questions. So what I recommend is what you know from step 1, the reason sheet. Let me explain that very quickly to make sure we know how to attack it. With your reason sheet, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have a paper that you save, that every time you practice questions 1 and 2, you put the reasons down. You don't need the answer, just the reasons. Over time, you're going to see that you can recycle those reasons. You want to try to recycle those reasons. That way you build a strong answer sheet. As a result, you'll have good information in your head about reasons when you're having a difficult question. You're less likely to need to resort to this. So I hope that's clear. As always, if you have any questions, let me know. Practice, practice, practice. And